Finding ways to stay consistent with your language learning practice over the long term and creating realistic, reasonable goals for yourself given everything else you have going on in your life is how you're going to learn a language faster than 99% of people. Now, in this video, I have 2 points, 2 very actionable things that you can start doing right away to enter that 1% of language learners. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. Okay, point number 1. We should not allot specific amounts of time to language learning practice. Instead, we should find ways to incorporate the language learning into our daily life. Generally, we're taught that speaking with native speakers, studying books, reading, listening to TV and movies, that these are more effective, valid forms of learning a language. But if we're being realistic with ourselves, a lot of us do not have a lot of time. A lot of us don't have bandwidth to sit down for an hour or 2 hours every week with a tutor or with a native speaker to practice your target language. So essentially, the actionable task here is as things happen in your daily life, you ask yourself, how would I say this in my target language? For example, let's say you're checking out at the grocery store and the cashier, as you're leaving, says to you something like, thanks for shopping with us, have a great day. Now you simply ask yourself, how would I say, thanks for shopping with us, have a great day in my target language? And then immediately pulling your phone out and searching it. So the simple 2-minute exercise of asking yourself, how would I say this in my target language, pulling your phone out and immediately figuring it out is probably not seen as a, substantial, effective way to learn a language, but these 2 minutes built up over time, if you actually, form this habit in a meaningful way, will compound and compound and compound until you just start to know how to say things. And I think using the example of walking as exercise is actually the perfect example for this. All right, this is a super short clip of Dan Go, a renowned fitness coach, talking about this concept of walking as a form of exercise. And then once we finish watching it, I want to talk about how this applies to language learning and what we're talking about in this video.
I think like one of the simplest things and one of the most underrated exercises that are out there is simply going for a walk outside without your phone. Going for a walk is one of these things that not a lot of people think of as exercise, especially in the society that we live in today, but it's one of the most underrated forms of exercise that you can actually do on your body.
So in that clip, Dan points out that most people don't think of walking as a effective form of exercise, just in the same way that you might not think of just pulling your phone out and looking up how to say certain things as a valid form of language learning. Now, of course, you still have to actually form this habit. You have to make an effort to form this habit. But to put it bluntly, learning a language is super difficult and it takes a long time, kind of no matter what method you're using. This method will just help you learn it significantly faster. This method also really helps new concepts, new vocabulary in particular, stick in your brain because you're associating the word with something that actually happened in your life, something that you actually saw and will be more easy to remember. Reading examples of vocabulary or grammar concepts in example sentences in textbooks or on articles online, it's not going to be the same as your actual lived experience. All right, let's move on to point number 2, which is that asking yourself why all the time is slowing you down significantly. Now, the general point here is that when we come across new grammar concepts in our target language, oftentimes it kind of opens the door to us realizing, oh, there's actually this other grammar concept being used in this sentence that I was not aware of. So then it kind of ends up confusing us because this original grammar concept that we weren't aware of led us to this other concept that we weren't aware of, which leads us to another concept that we weren't aware of. And then suddenly it's a rabbit hole and we've completely distracted ourselves from the original thing we were trying to figure out. Now, you do need some of these grammar questions to be answered, but it's not like you need all of them to be answered as soon as possible. Let me just real quick use an example from Spanish to illustrate this concept. One of the first things you learn when you're starting to learn Spanish is you learn the sentence, ¿cómo se dice?, which means, how do you say? So to fully understand grammatically this sentence, first we have to understand that verbs in Spanish are conjugated. The infinitive form, or just to say, in Spanish is decir. But then we get into the fact that it's spelled D-I-C-E and decir is spelled D-E-C-I-R. This is because decir is an irregular verb. Okay, so now we have the concept of irregular verbs. But then, on top of all of that, what is this word se? Essentially, in the example of como se dice, the se is denoting that you're saying, how would one say? But the word se in Spanish actually means tons of things and can change the context and the meaning of what you're saying pretty drastically. Going down this rabbit hole, jumping from grammar concept to grammar concept, is going to slow you down from the fact that the way in Spanish to say, how do you say, is como se dice. And if you just sort of accept that that's what it is, I'm not saying you should not try to understand all of the grammar concepts within that, but if you spend too much time on it, then you're not spending time actually using the language, asking questions, and applying the knowledge that you already have. I hope this video is helpful so far. I really generally just want my channel to be a realistic look at language learning. Okay, we all have lives that we have to live, all right? And we don't all have time to fit in studying and going abroad and immersing ourselves, but there are things we can do in our daily life to get better at the language we want to learn. So hopefully this is helping with that. If it is helping with that, please subscribe to this channel. That would mean a lot to me. Thank you. All right, I said there were only 2 points in this video, but there's actually a secret third point I'd like to go over. Because language learning is so difficult, because language learning takes so much time and effort, over a long span of time, you need to find ways to keep yourself motivated. Now, in my language learning experience, when I was learning Spanish, I was very fortunate to have certain experiences that really challenged me and pushed my Spanish knowledge forward much quicker. And when you feel that you are making progress, you will want to keep learning. You will be hungry for more. So this is my actionable recommendation to you so that you can feel like you're actually making progress and thus feel motivated to continue learning more. Every 4 to 6 months, I think you should talk to a native speaker. If you are employing the first 2 points that I said in this video, and you're also doing other things to supplement your learning, then you will see progress on like a 4 to 5 month time scale. And so then the best way to gauge your progress every 4 to 5 months would be to speak with a native speaker, feel how easy or difficult it is to speak with them, and get actual feedback from them. And you'll notice as you get better that you need less and less feedback, which is motivating, which will make you want to do more and learn more and get better at your target language. Okay, that's it. That's the video. I hope this was helpful. Again, please subscribe if this actually was helpful. Please only subscribe if this was actually helpful to you. So if it wasn't helpful, don't subscribe. Thank you.